This is incredible. I have waited 11 years to figure out what Destiny 1's original story was meant to be, and we now have that information here. The game post brings us this story of the original story for Destiny 1. This was the story that was scrapped at the last minute due to various different reasons. We're going to jump into everything we have here, okay? New details surface on Destiny 1's original statin cut before the 2013 reboot. A new breakdown of Destiny 1's scrapped statin cut has surfaced, revealing campaign structure, characters, factions, and a completely different story Bungie originally planned before the 2013 rewrite. When Destiny launched back in 2014, many players were confused by its story. While the gunplay and visuals were solid, that seems like the story always, right? The narrative felt hollow and disjointed. In 2015, a report by Jason Schreier revealed that what we got wasn't the story Bungie originally set out to tell for Destiny. The game's story was rebooted in mid-2013, just over a year before release, scrapping a more character-driven campaign written by Joseph Staten. And now, thanks to a new deep dive from a community member named Bresci, we have our clearest look yet at what the original story might have looked like. Now we're cooking. Now we're cooking. New details on Destiny 1's statin cut. Oh my gosh, what were we supposed to get? Let's peer into the multiverse for just a moment and see what Destiny 1 could have been like. This new info comes from a post shared by Bresci on r/Destiny Games subreddit after digging through the files of a December 2013 Xbox 360 tech alpha build of Destiny. An Xbox 360, which was leaked in June 2023. Bresci pieced together an enormous amount of data referencing Destiny's original campaign. Even though the story had already been rebooted by the time this build was made, it still included traces of the original missions, characters, destinations, and cinematics from the so-called statin cut. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's get into this. According to the information shared, Destiny 1's campaign was originally structured like a book series, with books and chapters making up the story arc. Each chapter was a full mission, and the campaign spanned multiple destinations that were either changed or cut entirely before release. The story would have taken players across 5 main destinations: Earth, Venus, Mars, Moon, and Dreadnought. Yes, the same Dreadnought that was later released as part of the Taken King expansion. There were also 3 social spaces: the Tower, the Reef, and the Lighthouse. Okay, we still got all of those. 6 main factions were part of the original content plan, 3 story-related and 3 for PvP. The story factions included Osiris, Queen's Wrath, and the 7 Seraphs. On the PvP side, the factions were the ones that we ended up getting in the final game: New Monarchy, Dead Orbit, and Future War Cult. Okay. There was also one more faction referenced in the files: FOTC, short for Forces of the City. Nice. They were mentioned in the mission structures as the group that sends you into the Cosmodrome at the very beginning of the game. Very cool. One of the most interesting parts of the leak is how different the main cast was in the statin version. These include Ghost, Crow, Osiris, Hecate, Rasputin, the Mask, and the Queen. Very cool. Okay, we got some images of these people too. They look very different here. The player's journey began with a more comedic and lighthearted Ghost, as they were sent by the last city to locate a hunter named Crow, a character that would later evolve into Uldren Sov. Joining you along the way was Osiris, his assistant Hecate, who later became the Stranger. Oh, very interesting. Now we understand why she doesn't have time to explain why she doesn't have time to explain. And Rasputin, who was originally an Exo being controlled by a Warmind rather than just an AI. The campaign kicked off on Earth, moved to Venus to find the Archive, then to Mars to retrieve something called the Seraph Key from the Dust Palace. With that key, the player would open the Seraphim Vault hidden in the Cosmodrome. Only to find Rasputin had been kidnapped by the Hive. After rescuing him on the Dreadnought, Book 1 concluded with a return to the Tower. Here's how the Book 1's chapters were structured. Chapter 1, Cosmodrome, intro mission with Crow, fighting Fallen. Crow was supposed to be our homie, and then he what? They went with an entirely different character arc for him. Chapter 2, Venus, reach the archive and confirm the existence of the Seraphim. Chapter 3, Mars, retrieve the Seraph key and meet the Queen. Chapter 4, Moon, infiltrate the Hellmouth. Chapter 5, Venus again, defeat a Vex Gatekeeper to trade for the Seraph key. Oh, is the Seraph key the same thing as the Eye of the Gate Lord? Is that like, are those like interchangeable terms or something? Chapter 6, Cosmodrome, enter the Seraphim Vault and find out Rasputin is missing. And Chapter 7, Dreadnought, rescue Rasputin from Hive captivity. Book 2 centered around accessing the Black Garden, which wasn't just a random mission, it was the finale of the second arc. The story you return to Mars and Venus to find a Vex key, then eventually travel through a portal in the Mars subway system to enter the Black Garden. After a climactic boss battle, the Queen used her ship to fire on the Black Garden, causing it to collapse. Interesting. Book 2's key missions included Chapter 1, Mars, enter the buried city subway station. Chapter 2, Venus, unknown content, ended with a Reef cinematic. Chapter 3, Mars, infiltrate a Cabal war base and retrieve a Vex key. Chapter 4, Cosmodrome, boss fight. Little is known about this mission. Chapter 5, Mars, use the Vex key to enter the Black Garden and stop the Vex. There were also detailed references to strikes, including one on the Dreadnought called the Crux. Damn, we straight up lost a strike. Where players would have faced a Hive boss named Asaru, the Navigator. Here's a list of all the strikes found. Den of Devil's Earth, the Nexus Venus, Dust Palace Mars, Cerberus Vey 3 Mars, the Summoning Pits Moon, and the Crux Dreadnought, featuring a Hive boss named Asaru, the Navigator. Ooh, Asaru the Navigator, interesting. This has been discussed before, but one of the biggest changes in Destiny's original story was scrapped the Hive Mega Raid. Oh, I love this. If you haven't heard about this before, I wish this actually was how it dropped in the game. That Bungie was working on before shifting focus to what eventually became the Vault of Glass. This raid cut was meant to take place aboard the Hive Dreadnought, a location players wouldn't officially visit until the Taken King launched a year later. The raid was structured across multiple key areas within the ship, including the Basilica, Golgoroth's Cellar, and the Oversoul Throne, locations that fans of King's Fall and Crota's End raids might recognize. Yes, the two were combined. Crota's End and King's Fall were actually one mega raid originally, and then they were split, I think due to part of the narrative change right here. Unlike Vault of Glass, which centered around Vex and time travel themes, this raid was deeply tied to Hive lore, relics, and their rituals. Datamine strings list a complete bubble path, aka room or encounter order. Control Basilica, Chamber 1, Golgoroth Cellar, Control Basilica, Lens, Oversoul Throne. A full lineup of major and ultra enemies was also included in the files, some of which never appeared in the game. What the heck is this? Gnath the Diviner, Krith the Siphon, Noctu the Lightslayer, The Wall, Voldor the Willkeeper, Divine Vision, Dredge Exploder, Relic Knight, Fire Knight, what? Ultras, Storgor the Shatterer, The Veil, the Oversoul. Oh man. Beyond the campaign and story content, the Tech Alpha build also gave us a look at Destiny 1's early PvP plans. Here's a list of all the PvP maps in the files, some of which eventually made it into the final game. The Archive, Ishtar Collective, and we got the Anomaly, Mercognitum Moon, Firebase Delphi, and Twilight Gap, Exodus Blue, Rusted Lands, Wolf's Den, Shores of Time, The Suffering, Abomination, Bastion, Wraith Mines, First Light, Timekeeper, Blind Watch, Sector 87, Asylum, Drowned Kingdom, dude. The Burning Shrine, The Scar, and Widow's Court. Wow. And then there's a European Dead Zone. Yes, the EDZ. What? In Destiny 1? It was in development for Destiny 1's Comet DLC, which eventually became the Taken King, complete with forests corrupted by a traveler shard and a strike set in an abandoned airport. This version of the EDZ used the same book/chapter structure and hinted at a larger ongoing story. EDZ description. Amongst the remains of an old Earth village lies an artifact of our ancient past, a casualty of the Twilight Gap that will bring Guardians face to face with the darkness. Nice. Unfinished destinations like Old Chicago, Cabal flagships, and even Europa were also present in the files. Wow. It's crazy that Europa was present in the files and we didn't get that until 2020, 6 years later. Bresci notes that while some small details are unclear due to limited data, the major plot points, mission layouts, and characters are accurate and come straight from data mine strings and in-game structure left behind in the tech alpha. What do you think of the original version of Destiny 1? Would you have preferred this stat and lead version over the one we got? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. That's a bait question. Of course we would have. That's a bait question for sure. Wow, that's incredible though. That's cool to see what, all the narrative changes that happened and what it would have been like. And I want to live in the multiverse where that was the Destiny 1 narrative, right? Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.